Grr, arg.
No, never give up, never surrender.
Welcome to the Mixtape Podcast, a podcast where we review and analyze movies from a screenwriter's perspective. I will be your host. My name is Dean Stark, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Marcelo Inostroza. And up this week, we have one of my favorite comedy movies of all time. We are reviewing Galaxy Quest, released in 1999, directed by Dean Parasot, written by David Howard and Robert Gordon. And if you don't know what Galaxy Quest is, holy shit. What can I say? I can't say anything other than, why have you not seen this movie? This movie should be stock standard that every single human being on the planet should have seen it because it is amazing. But if you don't know what it is, it's about this. The cast of a space soap have to play their roles as the real thing when an alien race needs their help. Marcelo, how do you feel about this movie?
I love this movie. This movie is the most unofficial Star Trek movie that there ever was. This movie activates my fan within me, and it's just absolutely wonderful.
That's so funny. I've seen so many people go, this is my favorite Star Trek movie of all time. I'm like, I never thought about it like that, but actually,
Yeah.
it is.
It's a Star Trek movie if the original crew of the Enterprise, meaning Kirk, Spock, Bones, McCoy, were bitter about the way they felt about each other, and they discovered that everything that they went through on the show was fucking real.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
First official scene, we open up watching the 1980s space TV show Galaxy Quest, and it's very over the top, and it's very campy, and it's very 1980s. And then we pull away and we find out we are at a Galaxy Quest convention. And the episode just played for the audience. Now, the actors from the show, Gwen, Alexander, Fred, and Tommy, are backstage in their TV show costumes. And they are all waiting for Jason, who's played by Tim Allen, the star of the show, who is always late. Let me just say one thing. Alan Rickman. Oh my God. Without Alan...
The reason why you go and see this movie, folks, is because of Alan Rickman.
Without Alan Rickman, this movie would be nothing. It would be a big fat nothing burger. Alan Rickman makes this movie because his character Alexander is British, and he's just too good for this. How did he get here? He used to be a real actor, and now he's doing this shit, and he cannot believe how far from grace he's actually fucking fallen. He starts having a meltdown. Like, he's putting his makeup on in front of the mirror, and he just fucking starts having like a hissy fit, a meltdown. Now they're about to go walk out on stage, but they're waiting for Jason. And then Jason comes in, and he's cocky as shit. And he doesn't get why everyone's pissed. They just look at him like, you can just roll in whenever you want to roll in. And then Alexander tries to make a run for it. Alan Rickman puts on this like coat and he tries to run away because he just doesn't want anything.
Doesn't fucking run away.
He doesn't want anything to do with it. And then Jason stops him. And Alexander hates him. Fucking hates him. And he says, nothing you can say will get me to go back on that stage. Nothing. And Jason says, the show must go on. And Alexander goes, shit. And then goes back inside. Because the reason why that works is because Alexander is British and he's a theatre actor. And when they say the show must go on, it's like a ping and it works every single time. And so they all go out on stage. Alexander hates... The disdain on Alan Rickman's face when he walks out on stage is like he would rather be in a trash compactor than be standing there in his Galaxy Quest uniform looking like an idiot. And then but then we switch to Jason. Jason loves it. Loves the spotlight. He loves the character. He even quotes his famous lines. Like him and Alexander, they play off of each other so well because Jason loves the role that he played, and Alexander fucking hates it. So, what did you think about the opening scene and the cast of characters?
I love the cast of characters because the writers of this film set up Tim Allen's character for the most part as a stuck-up actor who just thinks that the show's about him and no one else. So I really, really like that throughout the course of the movie, Tim Allen's character becomes selfless in a way, and he learns to appreciate his fellow cast members from the TV show that he works on.
So this is another funny. If you go to YouTube, someone has edited together all of Alan Rickman's scenes, and that's really all you need. That's really all you
Yeah.
need for this movie.
Yeah. All you need, dude. All you need.
Because they're sitting down signing autographs, but the way Alan Rickman signs the autographs, he's so pissed. he grabs the photo, signs it, and just almost tosses it back. Like I cannot even describe it. It's such a funny. You don't think Alan Rickman can be funny because he plays all these like dark villainous characters like Severus Snape and Hans Gruber and all that. But then you get this and you're like, he's actually a comedic genius. He knows how to, he's got comedic timing, and you just wouldn't pick that for Alan Rickman. So anyway, Jason he's signing his autograph. He's loving it. He's telling his fans story about his characters and about the TV show. Like, he's just all in it. Now, a fan, Brandon, he approaches Jason to ask a question when Jason is distracted by Gwen. Now, he likes her, but she walks away and walks past several strange-looking people. They're kind of, but they're at a convention, so everybody's like cosplaying, so they kind of fit in. And they approach Jason, and they say, "We are the Thermians from the Claytu Nebula, and we need your help." And Jason thinks it's about a gig he booked for tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, okay, well, this is tomorrow. Yeah, okay, fine. And then he walks off. Because, again, they're at a convention. These people are in cosplay, whatever. And then Jason enters the bathroom where he hears some people saying basically shit about how the actors haven't had a job in 20 years. And Jason gets off on the idiots that think he's a space commander, and his friends can't stand him. And it takes the wind out of his sails. He didn't think that, people would say that about him. Now, I don't know why people would go to a Galaxy Quest convention if they fucking hated the actors. But I understand why we needed it, because we needed Jason to kind of take a dip. So Jason goes back outside and he's signing autographs, and he's deflated. Like, fans are trying to talk to him. He doesn't want to talk. Like, he doesn't want to be there anymore. When Brandon approaches again, asking a question about the show, about the Omega-13, and Jason just basically goes off at him and says, it's just a TV show. Like, why are you taking it seriously? And then storms off. Now, the other cast members see this and know that's not him. So they're wondering kind of what happened. But anyway, that's a big scene, but I just wanted to kind of put it in a chunk. What did you think?
I absolutely love the scene in the bathroom because from a story perspective, that reinforces what I said before about the way that Tim Allen's character is constructed in this film is very highfalutin, and he has to think that he's the life of the party. And I love how, like Dean said, that gives him a moment of humility to really, really realize that he potentially needs to figure out some things about his life and learn and learn to appreciate the people that he works with. And and just a quick word on Alan Rickman, the way that he fucking signs those autographs and shit. I was like, and the way that he says, "I will not say that stupid line one more time" by Grand Thar's hammer. I'm like, what the fuck? So funny, so funny.
So Jason is at home alone, and he starts to drink. Now, he's rich, but he lives alone. He doesn't have a partner. He doesn't have kids. So part of the reason why he loves the spotlight is because he doesn't have anything else. That was his starring role, and people love him, and he's alone for most of the time. So just in that shot, you get a sense of why he's so connected to the character that he plays and why he loves the attention so much. So he starts to drink when an episode of Galaxy Quest comes on, and he remembers his dialogue, showing that he absolutely loved playing this role as the commander. So the next morning, Jason wakes up to the four strange people that confronted him at the convention. And they're just standing outside his glass sliding door, and they tell Jason that their people are being hunted and negotiations haven't gone well, and they need him to help them. And Jason's so hungover, he's like, "Oh, it's that gig thing that I booked. Okay, let me just put some pants on and I'll go with you. And so he goes with them and he's sitting in the limo and he basically falls. He says the funny, he goes, listen, I'm just going to close my eyes, but I'm listening to everything that you're saying. but he ends up falling asleep. He just doesn't care. And then we see the limo lift up into the sky. Now, Jason, who is very hungover, is on a spaceship. He thinks he's woken up and he thinks he's on a set. Someone's taken him into a set. He's so out of it. Now, he goes into a room that looks like the bridge of the Galaxy Quest, the ship, right? And the Thermians are like, we modeled it after the show. And he's like, wow, this is cool. This looks like really, really real. So he sits in the commander chair and the screen shows the bad guy, Saris. And you know what? He actually looks like something out of Star Trek. I really, really loved the design of Saris. So this is who they're negotiating with. Go for it. What do you think about Saris before I finish the scene?
Saris looks like a rejected Star Trek villain, like Spiderhead. I absolutely loved it so much. I really really appreciated his design, and I also really enjoyed how Tim Allen, like, he's so fucking clueless that these aliens are actually real, and they brought him on the set of his actual ship. The way that the storytellers set up the story is magnificent. It's absolutely magnificent.
So he's sitting in the seat and Sarah starts talking and Jason is so hungover, he's not even listening. And he's like, and basically says, look, fire everything at him. That'll do it. And then he just leaves. And the Thermians are looking at him like, okay. And then he enters, he goes, yeah, where do I go? Where's the exit? Like, how do I get home? And he enters a room and the aliens give him like a device and say like they can communicate with them. He can communicate. And he's like, yeah, I got one of these anyway. I like the fact they made him hungover. Because if he was like on it, he probably would have noticed something out of the ordinary. But because he was half asleep, he just thinks, oh, this is just a gig that he just did. Anyway, he enters a room and the aliens give him the device. And then he gets like enveloped in like this gel. Doors open and then he's looking out at like, I think it's Saturn he's looking at. And he's just like, holy shit, you could just see the whole like Milky Way system. And then he gets jettisoned back to Earth. And that's the point where he goes, oh, this is not a set. And I really, really like that. And we're only like 10 minutes into the movie. So it actually happens really quick.
The storytelling in this film is fantastic. I don't think that there is an ounce of this movie that I would take out. I absolutely love the moment when Jason sees space for the first time. That's the start of his eureka moment, and I absolutely love the moment when he comes back down to earth and he's there standing by his pool and he's just like like he's so like not sure about what he's just seen, but the fact that he's drunk plays into it.
So the crew, here's Alan Rickman again. The crew are at an opening of fucking something, and there's only like 10 people there, but they're up on the stage, and Alan Rickman, he says,
by Grabthar's hammer. What a savings.
but he says it differently. He says it differently. He says it's so deadpan. He just, he'd rather just die than do that. Like, it's so fucking funny.
I believe that they're at a car dealership opening or something like that.
That's what I thought. But I couldn't remember what it was. But anyway, Jason rushes in and he bumps into Brandon. And as he does, he drops the device that the aliens give him and picks up Brandon's fake device that he's holding. Because the device, it's similar to like a tricorder. So a lot of the fans have them, the crew has them, and they're just plastic, right? But Brandon picks up the real one and Jason picks up the prop. Now Jason gets to the team who are fucking pissed at him. And Alex goes, why do you even bother showing up? Like, it's over with. But he says, hey, no, listen. You remember those people dressed as aliens? He goes, well, they really were aliens or like termites or Dalmatians or something. And they're looking
Yeah.
at our ship.
They're
I was
about
on
to
their
Dalmatians or something.
He goes, I was on their ship. And he says, look, I can prove it. And he grabs the device and they all show him that they too have a plastic device. And he says, no, this one's real. I can speak to them in space. He tries and obviously it doesn't work because Brandon has a real device. And Jason realizes, he goes, oh shit, that kid has it. So the aliens pop up again, asking again for Jason's help. And he tries to tell his team these really are aliens, but his team, his crew, they walk off, they get into the van, and they're like, "Do you think he's talking about a job?" Now they can't get any gigs, and the reason they do this is because they need the money, and so they're like, "Okay," so they go and they catch up to him, and they
Like when they're in the car.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So they follow the aliens and they say to the aliens they want to go wherever it is that Jason is going. And then Sam Rockwell shows up. Sam Rockwell is a funny character. I don't know if we need him, but he's funny because for the whole movie, he's like, I was that one guy in that one episode that got killed. And his claim to fame is that, and he just really wants to be an actor.
He's a red shirt of this movie. I love how the setup of Tim Allen's character in this movie make him look like he's fucking crazy. And I love how until they get up to space, that's when it really clicks. And their reactions when they get up to space is absolutely it's absolutely fantastic.
So the team is on the ship when a door opens and these octopus-like aliens enter, and they walk right up to them, and the crew is just like, what the they're terrified until they transform into their human avatars. And they apologize. They say they didn't have their appearance generators on. So that's what that species actually looks like, but they make themselves look human so humans don't kind of freak out, which I really, really liked because in so many shows you see aliens, like sci-fi shows and, a lot of Star Trek, it's like they look humanoid. And I liked this because there has to be aliens that are not humanoid, that don't resemble humans, and I like that they kind of went in that direction. So the crew is confused and disorientated, and Jason is super excited and introduces them to the leader of the Thermians, Mathazar. And
Mathazar,
yeah,
he's great.
and he's in awe of the crew and says his people have studied the historical documents religiously. And Gwen, played so hilariously by Sigourney Weaver, is like, historical documents. Yeah. What? And Mathazar says everything they have built is copied directly from the show. So you know where everything is. So these aliens think that the show is real because they don't know what a TV show is. Thoughts?
I thought that was an interesting quirk to give these actual aliens. I've never seen that on a Star Trek episode or an episode of the Orville where the aliens are so innocent and so unknowing that they build their civilization on what they believe.
So Mathazar tells them that Saris has heard about the device, the Omega-13, and he wants it. But they don't know what it does or what it is. And Jason says, I don't know what it is either. Like, his character in the show found it in an episode, so he knows of it, but the show never kind of explained what it does. And then Mathazar shows what happened to their former commander, and we see Saris basically torturing the shit out of him to, like, where is the Omega-13? So the crew see this, and it's like, we cut to the crew bolting down the hallway trying to find a way out. They're like, no, we don't want to deal with this. This is not real. And they're looking for the exit before being told that they can't leave the ship yet because Saris is here and he will fire upon anything leaving the ship. I like that because it makes sense why they can't leave, and now they're stuck. And now whatever is going to happen, they have to face it. They have no choice. And it makes sense, and I like it.
It's a great way to box your characters into a box from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So the team get to the bridge because they can't do anything. They have to talk to Saris. So the team get to the bridge, and Saris says they have 10 seconds to hand over the device. And Jason turns to Gwen and he gives her the cut transmission signal. And she just looks at him. And then he goes to his other team member and he goes, look, fire up the weapon. Saris is stupid. He's ugly. He doesn't know what he's doing. Then he tells Gwen, okay, put him back. And Gwen says, what do you mean put him back? He's been on the whole time. He was always on. She goes, how am I supposed to know where the hold button is? And then he looks at the screen and Sarah is just looking at him like, stupid and ugly, huh? And it's like, oh my God. Then Jason tells Tommy, the pilot, to get them out of there. And he tells him to push the turbo button because Jason knows everything about the ship. And he does. And they propel forward like warp speed, but end up maxing out the engines because it's not supposed to be used that way. And then they hit a minefield. The mines are basically magnetic. No, so Saris's ship is chasing them, but Saris stops short of the minefield because he knows it's going to absolutely decimate his ship. But they don't know that. So Tommy's trying to like maneuver himself like around these mines, but because they're magnetic, they just keep hitting the ship. And Alexander goes, "Could you try not hitting all the mines?"
They're hitting all the mines.
And Tommy's like, they're magnetic. What can I do?
Yeah, they're magnetic.
And then they make it out to the other side, but the ship is fucked. It's fucked.
These are actors, and to see actors actually work on a spaceship and like it's so fucking amazing. And after they go to the minefield, obviously everybody is fucked up, but to see the actor who plays Laredo, his reaction when Mathazar picks him up and it takes him to the infirmary, it's just so fucking great. He fucking whines like a little child.
Yeah. No, that's funny. Everything about this movie is fucking hilarious. So we find out that the power source of the ship is the beryllium sphere, and it's damaged, and they need to find a new one, otherwise they're dead in the water, they can't go anywhere. And Mathazar enters the room, and Gwen tries to explain that what they saw are not historical documents, but they don't understand. And then she says, "You don't have anyone that like pretends?" And Mathazar says, "Oh, you mean deception and lies?" It's like, oh shit. It's like, oh, that's a lot. And he goes, "Oh, we just became aware of what that means, because Saris will say one thing and then he'll do another." So this species of Thermians, they're childlike, they're very innocent. They don't know bad things. They know truth, they know honesty, and they don't know anything else, which is why they keep getting fucked up. Now, one of the crew comes in, I think Fred, he comes in, and he says that a nearby planet has a beryllium sphere that they can get if they take a shuttle down to the planet, and they can bring it back. But I just thought that it was really interesting that they made the aliens technologically savvy but emotionally like children. I really like that a lot.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Technologically savvy but emotionally like children. I think Dean nailed it on the head there. That is such a interesting story quirk to give a group of aliens in essentially a spoof of a Star Trek of a Star Trek film. I think that is absolutely amazing. And also, in contrast, to see how actors who are fucking revealed by these individuals, to see how actors are going to navigate this obvious real situation is fucking phenomenal. It's absolutely great.
So there's a short scene that I want to mention because it comes back later. Alexander is walking down one of the hallways with an alien named Quellic. And Quellic is obsessed with Alexander. "I admire you so much. I feel like you're a father figure to me." Like, he just loves everything about him. And then he starts to say Alex's catchphrase, which Alexander refuses to. We don't know what it is yet, but he fucking refuses to say it. He hates it. And then when when Quellic starts saying it, Alex is like, "No, don't do that. Don't I'm not kidding. Don't say it." He doesn't even want to hear someone else say it. But that's going to come back at the end. That was a beautiful setup.
Alexander's relationship with that specific alien, I think, is the heart of the movie for me in a specific way, because to see how that relationship develops and is paid off later on, it's absolutely so wonderful.
So the team take a shuttle to the planet to get the sphere. Now, they find like a mining colony, but they can't see anyone. But they spot a beryllium sphere somewhere in the encampment. And they get closer and they see small, kind of like childlike aliens come out. And this, again, this is another hilarious line. Alexander says, "Could they be the miners?" And Fred says, "Sure, they look like 3 years old." Alex says, "Miners, not miners."
No, and then and then Guy says the essential red shirt of this movie. He goes, "Have you not seen an episode of the show? These fucking aliens act like children, but 2 seconds later they fucking open their mouths and gonna eat you to death."
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It's funny because he was in the show, but he's a super fan of the show. Whereas I feel like sometimes actors, they're in show that actors are in certain shows, but I've seen this at conventions before. It's the fans that often know more about the show than the actors, because the actors are just doing their job and they're playing their character. They don't know everything. So Guy is that character that fucking knows everything about the show, because actors, I don't feel like they really pay attention to everything when they're playing characters in a show.
To actors, it's just a job. It's not.
Yes.
It's not. It's not a way of life. It's not how you develop friends for a lot of corners of fan base. There are a lot of fans that spend hours, days, and years thinking about every little thing that is poured out on this show. So that aspect of this movie is another part of it that I liked that I haven't hit on yet, or we haven't hit on yet. And I think it's just I think this film shows that dynamic really, really well between people who work on a TV show and people who in some ways identify with that show, that it becomes their whole life, essentially.
Yeah. So they see an injured one, and Gwen says, "Oh, look, there's an injured one. They're going to help him." And he walks to the other ones, and they basically just jump on him and fucking kill him. And they're like, "Oh my God." And so they're like, "How are we going to get the sphere? The sphere is there." And obviously they don't want to get anywhere near those things. So they devise a plan. Jason divides a plan to get a sphere, which is actually from an episode of the show, which is funny. Then they go in, they grab it, and the miners come out and they chase them. And they get right to the shuttle with the beryllium sphere, but Jason gets pulled out as the shuttle flies up. Now, again, Alan Rickman, as they're flying up, Alexander looks down at Jason and he says, "Oh, right, it's always about you." He fucking hates Jason.
He fucking hates him.
Anytime he gets any kind of limelight, even if he's being like dragged away by aliens, he's like, "Oh, great. So the spotlight's back on you, and now we have to go back and rescue you." It's fucking hilarious. Thoughts?
I think that in some way, Alexander blames Jason for his work not being recognized on the show.
Yes.
But this whole sequence is absolutely wonderful because it really, really harkened back to an episode of Star Trek for me, and it was so wonderful. It was so wonderful to see.
So they get back to the ship and they can see Jason fighting like a pig-like creature, because the miners have put him in like a fighting pit, right? And they say, look, they're speaking to him on the walkie thing, and they say, look, they can digitize him up to the ship, but it's not been tested yet. So they try it on the pig thing that he's fighting, and it turns out it's inside out. And they're like, "Oh no, that didn't work well." And then a rock creature comes out of the rock and starts chasing Jason, and he's yelling at them. He's like, "Listen," he's yelling at Fred on the walkie, saying, "You got to digitize me. I know you can do it. I'm not going to be inside out. You have to, because there's no way he can find." Because the guy, Sam Rockwell, is like, if you can find like a vulnerable spot," Jason is like, "It's a rock. It had no vulnerable spots." He's like, "Get him off the walkie." He just keeps doing stupid ideas. He's like, "Digitize me." And they digitize him, and Jason is back on the ship, but he's lost his shirt. And Alexander goes, "Oh, I see. Any excuse to get your shirt off." And then Jason tries to walkie to Malthazar, and there's no answer. And then Saris walks in. So Saris has obviously boarded the ship while they've been away on the shuttle. But I always found it funny. They call it digitize, but we know what it is. It's beaming. They're beaming. They can't say it, but they're beaming him up. But they're digitizing.
I also love the scene because there's a really, really quick moment when Tim Allen's character gets really frustrated. And Alan Rickman's character, who is the Spock character, essentially in this movie, Tim Allen goes, "Advise me. You're my advisor. That's what you're supposed to do, right?" Alexander's character says, "Well, you're just gonna find you're just gonna have to find somebody to kill it." So it's just a it's just a really, really, really fucking scene. It's a funny scene, but this movie really reminds me of what if what if the crew from Next Generation actually was put in this situation and discovered that the show was real.
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
like that would be fucking funny ass hilarious to me.
Yeah. Although I do think that fuck, what's his name? Forgot his name. What's his?
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I do think that Patrick Stewart could do it. If he was put on a real ship, I do think that he could command it. I feel that from him.
He has a very, very commanding presence, to be sure. Yeah, absolutely.
He does.
Yeah, he could pull it off.
So Saris's men shove Jason and the rest of the crew into a room, and Jason sees that Mathazar has been basically tortured. And Saris asks what the Omega-13 does, and Jason says, "I don't know what it does." And then Saris tortures Mathazar again, and Jason says, I don't know what it does. And then he says he's not the commander. Like, he has to come clean. He goes, "I'm not the commander." And he tells Gwen, he goes, show Saris the historical documents. And then Gwen talks to the computer and says to open Galaxy Quest up. And the opening credits of Galaxy Quest start. Saris starts laughing because he knows it's a show. He knows what a TV show is. And so everything kind of falls into place for him. And he says, "You need to tell Mathazar who you really are." And then he goes, and then Jason goes up to Mathazar. It's actually quite an emotional scene. He goes up to him and he says, I'm not a commander. And Saris says, "Talk to him like you would a child." And he says, "I pretended. I lied. On Earth, we do it to entertain." And Mathazar basically looks just devastated and crushed, because before he was saying, Saris lies and only bad people lie. So when he said he lied, it was just this actor, I don't know, I can't remember. He's in a lot of stuff, but he just plays it so well.
This scene is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, because I think that this is the turning point for the character played by Tim Allen. And I think that this is the moment of humility that he needed to understand that him and his group of actors have to find some way to cowboy up and deal with the situation the best way that they can.
Yeah. So now Saris says, well, they're actors. They obviously have no idea he knows now they don't know what the Omega-13 is. So he's like, yeah, we're just going to blow up the ship. But we're going to suffocate the crew first because fuck them. Because he's a bad guy, right?
Yeah, the bad guy.
Yeah. So Saris's thugs basically take the team to be jettisoned into space. But Jason picks a mock fight with Alex. And as they're fighting, they basically push the thugs into the airlock and basically jettison them out into space. And they see on a monitor that the Thermians are in their barracks, but they're being suffocated. All the oxygen is being taken out of the room. So they've got to deal with that. And then the core of the ship is basically going to explode in 7 minutes because Saris put the self-destruct on. And Jason says that he and Gwen will go down to shut the core, and the others, meaning Alexander and Fred, have to find a way to shut down the valve so the Thermians can breathe again. So now we go on kind of two different journeys in the ship. And I like that. Thoughts?
This moment between Alexander and Jason when they're putting on a mock fight, I think this is the first time that we see the dynamics of how Jason and Alexander could have functioned in the show. I mean, this is the first time that they come together, and this is the first time that Alexander, I feel, doesn't feel really resentful for the way that Jason acts as the character of Galaxy Quest. What do you think? Do you think that that's true or not?
I think Jason does little things that make Alexander think he's not completely useless. So
Right.
fighting the creature, saying to digitize him when he didn't know if he was going to survive, leading the team, coming up with, plans. Bit by bit, Alexander has gone, okay, well, he's not just a show pony. He kind of knows what he's doing. And picking the mock fight, I think that was when Alexander went, that was kind of smart. He's starting to get some respect for him because he's stepped up and he's not just a show pony. He's actually he's doing what a commander should do. So yeah, I think it's I don't think he hates Jason at this point. I think like you said, this is the first time the team has worked together because they're not constantly at each other's throats.
Right.
So as Jason and Gwen head to the core to shut it down, Gwen reminds him that neither of them know how to shut down the core because they're actors. And Jason says, yeah, I know, but I know someone who does. And then we cut to Brandon, who is played amazingly by Justin Long. And his mum comes into his room. He's a teenager. And he goes, listen, I need you to take out the trash. And he says, yeah, okay, like in 10 minutes. Like he's a tech head. And he just wants to tinker with his shit that he's got in his room, his tech stuff. And then he hears a beep. And he hears Jason come over the communicator saying, yeah, it's Jason. And Jason tells him he has a communicator. They bumped into each other. He's got a real one. And he remembers him asking tech questions about the ship. And he needs his help. So Brandon says, all right. Brandon has the ship's schematics on his computer. And he guides them through the basically the under, what do you call it? What do you call it? Like the underneath of the ship.
The bows of the ship.
The bows of the ship. That's it. The bows of the ship.
Is what Jason,
yes.
Yeah, is what Jason says at some point. Yeah.
Then Jason asks Brandon, do you know what the Omega-13 does? And he says, some people say it's a matter collapser, a bomb capable of destroying everything in 13 seconds, but he thinks it's a matter rearranger, affecting a 13-second time jump into the past. And I was like, oh, that's good. Meanwhile, Fred digitized the rock monster into the ship full of the bad guys, and it basically kills them all, and then he jettisons it out, so that was smart. Alexander and Quellic open the doors to the room that the rest of the Thermians are in, and Fred helps. And Alexander walks in, and they're basically this is so funny. He walks in, and they're all cheering. They're like, "Yay!" And he's like, "Oh, finally, I've saved the lives of everybody." And then they say, "Jason saved us," and he's like, he can't. He absolutely fucking can't get a break.
Like Dean said, and like I have said, Alan Rickman is the price of admission for this movie. It absolutely is. He absolutely is, without a shadow of a doubt.
So everything seems good, and then Quellic gets shot from behind, and the one of Saras's men is still on the ship, and he runs down the hallway, and Alex runs over and he cradles him in his arms, and he tells Alexander, it's been an honor to serve with him, and he's always considered him a father. And then Alex says the famous words. This is the first and only time he says it. He says, by Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Warvine, you shall be avenged. And then Quellic dies, and that's a sad moment because Quellic is quite funny. Not funny. He's a good character. He's not in a lot of scenes, but the actor plays him really, really well, so you remember him. And then Alex is pissed. He's really pissed, and he gets up. He goes into the hallway. He sees the guy with the gun. He just jumps him. He just runs and fucking jumps him. Like, fuck you. I don't care if you've got a gun. Fuck you. So it's the first time that Alexander has felt anything but disdain. The whole movie, he just feels disdain and hatred. This is the first time where he has another emotion, and it's sadness, and I like that.
Yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful moment, but it to me it was really reminiscent of when Kirk and Spock died in actual Star Trek, because it's so sad to see this alien die, because this alien mapped his whole life and his whole belief system off of the character that Alan Rickman played in a TV show. So
Mm.
I think for me, that's one of the best scenes in the movie. That is not the scene where I chuckled out loud and I stood up and I applauded. That scene's coming up very, very shortly. But it's a very, very emotional scene. And it was great to see Alexander actually use his disdain and his disappointment. And it was great to see him feel emotion for the first time, and watching Alan Rickman just go bonkers on all those fucking aliens in the fucking hallway is absolutely fucking amazing. It's like, it's just so great.
So Jason and Gwen, they make it to the core. They have to go through this whole fucking like obstacle course, which is hilarious. And even Gwen says, like, because these Thermians, they modeled the ship after the show. So everything that they go through is from the show. And Gwen even says, I'm going to kill whoever wrote this episode. Because obviously there's an episode in the show where they have to go through an obstacle course in the bowels of the ship. And the Thermians think that it's real, so they fucking made it. And so she's fucking pissed. So anyway, they make it. It's funny the way that they make it through, because she just like she is me. She's just like, what the fuck? Why? Why am I here? Why are we doing this?
Why would you do this? It makes no fucking sense. Whoever wrote this episode should die.
Yeah.
It's so fucking great. And also I love Jason Long in this movie, and I love how for the first time in this movie his love of the show and his knowledge of the show serves a purpose. So I love the way that the writers had his character work out, and I love the way that for once being a nerd actually was helpful.
True. So they make it to the core, and Brandon tells them, because Jason goes, what do I do? And he goes, just press the blue button. And Jason goes, that's it? And Brandon goes, yeah. And he goes, I just thought it would be more complicated. So he pushes it and nothing happens. And he tries to get Brandon back on the communicator, and there's no response. And this is the funniest thing. And then we cut to Brandon. He's running out of the house with the trash, and he's throwing it in the bin. And he tells his mum, I cannot explain what bad timing this is. He goes to run in the house. She goes, the recycling. And it's just funny because it's so relatable that your parents have no understanding of what you're doing. They think it's a nothing burger, and it's just like, no, I cannot do this right now. And then the count, and then we switch back to Gwen and Jason, and the countdown gets to 1, and they think the ship's going to blow, and then it stops. And Gwen goes, oh yeah, it always stops at 1 on the show. So the Thermians even rigged it to stop at 1. And I'm like, okay, that was pretty funny. I
saw so much of myself in Brandon in this movie, but the moment when he's taking out the trash was absolutely so relatable. And his parents are so funny too, because they're just so happy that he's outside and he's actually doing something instead of fucking being in his room building a model of like the spaceship.
Yeah. Yeah. So they all get back to the bridge, and Tommy, who's the pilot, he flies them back through the minefield because they have to go back that way. Now, Saris follows, and Jason tells Tommy, can you get as close as you can to the mines? Because they're magnetic. And they turn the ship and head straight for Saris's ship. Now, Saris has no idea what's going on. And they're dragging hundreds of mines behind them that then destroy Saris's ship, because Saris goes, yeah, well, you can't destroy us, you have no weapons. And Jason goes, yeah, but we're dragging mines. And Saris is like, oh fuck. so and that was, I like that, because that was set up and that comes to fruition. And so it blows up Saris's ship, and Mathazar enters and asks for Jason to stay, as they don't have a commander. And Jason says he thinks that they have a great commander, and then puts his hand on his chest and bows to Mathazar. And this is part of his arc. And Alexander sees this and smiles, because everything is always about Jason. And the old Jason would have gone, hell yeah, I'll be your commander. That's awesome. But he recognizes that he's a commander in a TV show, and he can only do so much. And he recognizes that there's someone better for the job than him. So I like that. You don't always get arcs in comedy movies, but this is his arc.
they gave Tim Allen a bit of humility and a bit of self-examination, and I love the way that is illustrated in this moment with Malthazar.
So Jason tells Tommy, head back to Earth. And Alexander tells Jason, look, before Cyrus's ship was destroyed, there was like a small energy surge coming from his ship. But Jason says, oh, no, it's fine. It's probably nothing. And then Fred comes in and shoots Jason in the chest and then transforms into Cyrus, who then shoots everyone else, basically kills everyone. And Jason tells Malthazar before he dies, basically, activate the Omega-13. So he does, and now we go back 13 seconds. So it's exactly what Brandon said it is. It's a time jump backwards. And then Fred walks in again, and Jason jumps him, and he tells everyone, this is Cyrus, this is not Fred. And then Malthazar basically beats the shit out of him with his crotch. The only thing about the movie that I question. The fact that Cyrus could turn into anyone he wanted to and back again, that was not established at all.
No, at all.
Maybe it's in like the extended cut that we'll never see, but that was never look, it's not a nitpick, it's just something that I'm like, oh, well, that wasn't established. Everything else in this movie is set up except for that.
Yeah. I think that's a classic case of ready, you know what I'm going to say. Writer's convenience.
Yes.
Writer's convenience. The essential final boss fight between Cyrus and our collective selection of heroes is absolutely wonderful. Essentially, these aliens learn how to grow up and become in their own way adults by the situation.
But by the end of the movie, they still think it's historical documents. Because remember, Malthazar says, you had me. They still think it's real. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
I think that there's a big learning curve for Malthazar and his civilization. But I do think that this situation is going to serve them well in the long run.
So we get back to Brandon. We go back to Brandon, who rushes out with fireworks, and his mum stops him. He goes, what are you doing? And just along, I wrote down his fucking what he said, because I'm like, what is he saying? So he said, the protector got super accelerated coming out of the black hole, and now the atmosphere at Mark 15, and as you know, that's unstable. So we're going to help guide it on the Vox Ultra frequency carrier and use Roman candles for visual confirmation. And his mom just looks at him and goes, all right, dinner's at 7.
The thing that made the scene work for me is that his parents are sitting on the couch, and his father is like reading a newspaper, totally not into him.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a great moment. Absolutely great moment.
So Brandon is in a parking lot, and he's got the fireworks going off, and in the background there's a Galaxy Quest convention going on. And they end up basically there's a lot.
Yeah. How many conventions are about Galaxy Quest?
How many Star Trek conventions are there? A buttload.
That is true.
So they end up crash landing into the convention, and at first the crowd is like, oh my God, but then they're like, yay, because the door opens to the ship, and they all exit the ship onto the stage, and they think it's part of the show, and they're like, oh my God, this is the best entrance ever. And then Cyrus steps out of the ship, and Jason does this roll, and he grabs a space gun and shoots him, and the crowd loves it because they think it's part of the show. And then Jason tells everybody's like cheering for Jason. It's like, Jason. And his crew are kind of like they're back behind him because they're used to him being up front. And Jason turns to his crew, and he basically motions for them to join him up front, and they're like, oh, okay. And they basically stand on the stage as one, whereas before, at the beginning of the movie, Jason just took the glory and he didn't give a shit about his crew. But now he's gone through all this shit and he's realized, I need my crew. I'm nothing without them. I'm not a commander without my crew. And so he's pulled them up front. And that kind of finishes off his story arc, which I like.
I loved how Tim Allen used the role that was set up earlier in the film when they were when they were on the planet, and I love how he learned how to share the spotlight with his fellow cast of actors and understand that the show isn't all about me. It's about these it's about my friends, and it's about sharing the spotlight with them. So it was a great way to end the movie, and this movie was so much fun to watch. And yeah, it was just so great.
Now they've rebooted the show, and it's 18 years later with the same cast. And we see the opening credits, which is a fresh opening credits. And Sam Rockwell is added to the crew. And Alexander looks happy to be there because he's been through so much. And he's actually realized that it's not actually bad. Like, the role that he's playing is not actually bad. And he's actually come to enjoy it. So there's a little bit of an arc for him there as well. And that's the end.
I love the way that this ends, but essentially, after I watched the ending of this film, I'm really really grateful that I got to see it when I was younger, and I'm really grateful that Guy, the essential red shirt of this movie, got our last name, and he got to be a part of the show. But also, I just felt really sad because they were talking about essentially rebooting Galaxy Quest and bringing it back. But because of the passing of Alan Rickman, that's not going to happen anymore. So,
Trivia?
go ahead.
So the original tone for the film was really dark with a lot more violence, but after the test screenings they decided to lighten it up. I want to see Galaxy Quest like that, just to see what the
Oh my
actual
God.
intention was and what we actually got, because I love what we got. But if you're telling me there's a darker Galaxy Quest, fuck, I need to see that.
Oh, yep. Sign me up. Sign me up, because I would have loved to seen a darker version of this film, but in saying that, I really would like to see if the writers were able to balance it, because if the writers were able to balance it, I could have taken it.
Yeah.
But that being said, I love this movie. It's one of my favorite uh unofficial Star Trek movies ever. So
So
yeah.
Marcelo was right. They did want to do a Galaxy Quest 2. People have been asking. They waited too long. People have been asking for it for like 20 fucking years, and they waited way too fucking long. And then Alan Rickman died. And obviously you cannot make Galaxy Quest without Alan Rickman. But a recent interview with Sigourney Weaver and Tim Allen, they said that they still wanted to do it. Now, the original casting for Alan Rickman's character was Benedict Cumberbatch. So if they cast him, it will not be the same, but maybe.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had no idea that they were still Sigourney Weaver and Tim Allen were open to doing the show, and it's very interesting that the writers of this film, their original choice was Benedict Cumberbatch, but I think it's not going to be the same without Alan Rickman. But it's good to hear that Galaxy Quest may come back someday, maybe, possibly.
Alec Baldwin, Steve Martin, and Kevin Kline were considered for Jason.
No, absolutely not. Tim Allen owned this role. As much credit as we have given to Alan Rickman for this movie, Tim Allen played his part pitch perfectly.
So the last piece of trivia is actually really, really funny. Tim Allen is a massive Alien fan, and he was so starstruck by Sigourney Weaver that he has memorabilia from the Alien set. He's that full on, and he got her to sign it in between filming, and she did, because she's a legend. And I was like, oh my God. I never think about stuff like that. I never think about an actor wanting another actor to sign shit, because to me that's fan stuff. But I guess they must have them. They must have them.
Yeah, that is absolutely sensational, because I never knew that either. I never knew that either, and now all I can see in my head is Tim Allen asking the legend Sigourney Weaver to sign shit between takes.
Yeah.
take us home.
We hope you've enjoyed our review of Galaxy Quest. If you like us, please subscribe and like our stuff. We have lots more reviews that you can listen to in every genre except Western. We might do a Western, who knows? Anyway, up next week, we're going to talk about Lee Whannell's The Invisible Man. So please come back for that. And as always, if someone is kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must mean that they really love you. The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.